For Crema Media's Polity, I'm Sane Dhlamini. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins me for Suttner's View, a weekly commentary on South Africa's political scene. Welcome, Professor.
Hi.
Some commentators are interpreting Zuma's plans for free higher education as an attack on the national treasury. What is your view on this matter?
Yes, you know, the idea of free education obviously is very appealing. But a commission of inquiry was appointed, and there's also been a medium-term budget, and the Fees Commission under Judge Hare did not recommend free education, gave a number of alternatives, and the budget that was presented by the new Minister of Finance a few weeks ago made no provision for free education. And it was a budget which was very shocking. I'm one of these people who doesn't really understand budgets very much, but this budget I understood. Why I understood it is that South Africa is very close to bankruptcy. The country has got a huge debt to GDP ratio. The amount of debt compared with the amount that the country grows is the ratio is very low growth, and it's not keeping up with population growth. It's not possible to be transformative or developmental. It's actually an economy that needs to find ways of conserving what it has and consolidating what it owes, limiting what it owes. So when the president comes with a new idea, he's not confirmed it, a new idea which will cost around 40 million or more, and we hear that members of the Treasury were running all over the place trying to find ways of cutting this, cutting that. Already people complain there's not sufficient funding for a number of services. We have situations where the Defence Force, look, I'm not myself keen, the Defence Force going up to Central African Republic, all these things, but they're claiming they don't have weaponry that is up to date, they don't have sufficient weaponry. Now that's one of the places that you hear they're planning to withdraw from. But for all we know, they can cut some social benefits, things like that. But even the idea, or procedurally, that you have a budget and you have had this report on the Fees Commission for some months, and you don't discuss with the Treasury what you want to do. And what it seems to be part of also is that control over the budget is passing from the Ministry of Finance and the Treasury to a Presidential Commission on Fiscal Matters. And it was Jeff Radebe who made some statement in relation to that this week, coming from the President's Monitoring Committee and so forth. Now, in the years before this, the Treasury has created an image of being a very professional organization. Many of the people had been there for 20 years, things like that. And when South Africa became democratic in 1994, it confronted a situation with a huge apartheid debt, junk status in fact, and they had to try and win the confidence of investors. They didn't really manage to get a lot of investment, but they followed fairly conservative macroeconomic policies, and that sort of thing pleases rating agencies. It's called prudent financial management. Now, the truth of the matter, which we must admit, is the forms of financial management that are approved by the ratings agencies and by investors are not the best ones in terms of social development, transformation, all of these things. They like you to cut back on spending. But in the context of a country that was emerging into a world that was not well disposed towards transformative goals, they had to have these conservative policies. Maybe they went too far. I think when they cut tariffs, they went beyond what was necessary. Some people say they destroyed the textile industry in South Africa. Nevertheless, through a number of situations of world economic crisis, 2008 and so forth, the Treasury has managed the economy in a manner that has staved off junk status until recently. And we have got the sense that this form of management, of regularizing spending, of ensuring that spending conforms to what the law says, of monitoring what departments do to try to see that things are cut where they can be cut so that the debt is reduced. This has been an obstacle for those who want to steal from the state. They have, for example, blown the whistle on SAA, on Eskom, and a number of things through the procurement office of the finance ministry. Consequently, in order to try to have this nuclear deal, we now know that they dismissed Nene because Nene was not prepared to approve it. Now, within a few days of Nene going, there was such an uproar, and business, especially the banks, came to the fore, and Zuma was temporarily forced to retreat. And he brought back Gordhan. Now, Gordhan is not exactly who he wanted. He kept on saying things that undermined Gordhan. Like he said that Des van Rooyen is the best qualified Minister of Finance he'd ever had, because Van Rooyen has a master's degree or some such thing. And he was never at home with Gordhan. He appointed as head of SARS someone who was doing his bidding. This chap got rid of the main people in SARS who were after the corrupt people. And so the scene was set for looting, but Gordhan was an obstacle. Eventually they got rid of Gordhan. Now, the rand at the moment, even before this thing about the fees, is about double what it was in 2010 to the dollar. So the value of the rand has depreciated greatly. Now, this chap who they appointed, Gigaba, was very involved in state capture. He was the one who changed the boards of a number of the state-owned entities. These state-owned entities are meant to be the driving force of transformation, of being a developmental state, etc. Now, they can't be that if there's no money. And this is where leftists, when they focus on conservative macroeconomic policies, are undermining the attempts to conserve the resources. You can't have a developmental state if the treasury is looted, if we have no resources. Now, Gigaba comes in there, and his first statements are along the lines of radical economic transformation, and people are very unhappy. He soon learns that the world in which he has to operate, he has got to make some different sounds, but also, if he doesn't want the country to go bankrupt, he has to try to contain spending. So he made this budget the other day that was very shocking. But what was different from him compared with Gordhan, for example, he didn't offer any plan of how to deal with this. And he's still got the civil service wage negotiations coming, and if those wages are huge, then, by the way, in the period of Zuma, civil service has ballooned. Wage bills have ballooned for ministers, all these things, huge cabinets, lots of cabinet reshuffles. So you have the situation then, which is the background to what sounds a very good idea, to have free education. But you can't have free education unless it is affordable. And only person who seems to have advised Zuma is his one daughter's former boyfriend, and he has preferred to talk to this person rather than the Treasury. And it's led to the resignation of a DDG, Michael Sachs, Deputy Director General, who's been there for 20 years or 10 years. And we've already seen the resignation of the previous Director General, other people. Very soon, the head of FICA's contract will run out, Marie-Michel. So you've got a depletion of the institutional memory of the Treasury. Now, as Pravin Gordhan was saying yesterday, people have to understand that institutional memory is important. If Kenneth Creamer leaves Creamer Media, does someone else know what Kenneth knows about the job? He needs to train a successor. And what happened in SARS is they just got rid of the top management, and SARS has undercollected by 56 billion or some huge amount under the reign of Tom Moyane. There's a complete crisis over there. So what I feel then is people being worried. Zuma may be doing this to have free education in order to make an announcement for the ANC conference, which assists Nkosazana Dhlamini Zuma, or somehow to win some support for himself because he remains state president. However, there's no money for it.
So if this is true, that in fact our president does implement this free higher education, where do you think this money will come from?
Well, you know, he will have to find ways of raising this money by cutting the spending of existing budgets for other departments. That is the only way, that only resources that remain. We're not going to get investors giving us money for something like this, because they will say this is not an investment. Also, they fear now, the more reckless South Africa becomes, the more danger there is in lending money to South Africa. So it may be that he has to cut from something, and let us hope that he doesn't do it, or he stopped from doing it. But if he does it, let us hope that it's not from social grants or things like this. But I mean, it's very hard to know. Even if it's cut, say, from Defence Force and any security force, you do need a basic police service, for example. They don't have enough police vans, things like this. So I don't know where it's going to come from.
Thank you, Professor. That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about Presidency's move to control budget.